You have a blood type. Right now, moving through your veins, there's a single letter that describes something about you: A, B, AB, or O. You've written it on a form before. Maybe it's on a little card in your wallet, or you saw it on a plastic bracelet the last time you were in a hospital. Most people know theirs the way they know their shoe size, a fact about the body they never chose and never think twice about. But here's the strange part. You've probably never once asked why you have a blood type at all. Why blood, this red stuff that looks identical in every single human on Earth, secretly comes in different flavors? And why the letter you happen to be born with could have gotten you killed 100 years ago, or quietly saved your life in the middle of an ancient plague? Because the truth is, your blood type isn't really about you. It's the leftover of a war your ancestors were fighting long before you existed. A war older than farming, older than language, older, in fact, than humans. Let's start with what that letter actually means. For most of human history, nobody knew blood types existed, and that ignorance was lethal. Doctors had been trying to transfuse blood from one person into another for centuries, and they watched patients die over and over for reasons no one could explain. The blood would go in, and the person's own body would seem to turn on it, clumping it, destroying it, sometimes killing them in minutes. Transfusion was basically a gamble with death, and nobody knew which way the dice were loaded. The answer arrived in 1901, in Vienna, from a scientist named Karl Landsteiner. He did something almost embarrassingly simple. He mixed blood samples from different people together and watched what happened. Some combinations blended smoothly. Others clumped on contact, curdling like milk gone bad. From that, he realized human blood comes in distinct groups, and mixing the wrong two is a death sentence. He named them A, B, and O, with AB coming shortly after. It won him a Nobel Prize, and it's the only reason a blood transfusion today is routine instead of Russian roulette. But what Landsteiner had really discovered wasn't types. It was flags. On the surface of every red blood cell in your body, there are tiny molecular markers, think of them as flags, or name tags, that your cells wave. If your cells fly the A flag, you're type A. The B flag, you're type B. Fly both, you're AB. Fly neither, you're O. That's the entire system. 4 outcomes, decided by which flags your blood cells happen to raise. And your immune system lives by one brutal rule: attack any flag it doesn't recognize as its own. That's why the wrong transfusion is deadly. Pour type A blood into a type B person, and their immune system spots a foreign flag and starts a war inside their own veins. Your blood type, in other words, is a password. Your body will destroy anything that doesn't know it. So far, this all sounds like a quirk of biology, a molecular ID card. But here's the question almost nobody stops to ask. Where did the flags come from in the first place? And why on earth do different humans fly different ones? This is where it stops being a human story at all. In 2012, a team of geneticists led by Laura Scarell published something genuinely startling. They traced the A and B blood types backward through the tree of life, and they kept going, and going, past early humans, past our upright ancestors, past the point where our lineage split from other apes. The A and B blood types, they found, are shared with chimpanzees, with gorillas, with gibbons, not similar versions, the same ancient genetic variants, still riding in the blood of animals we haven't shared an ancestor with in tens of millions of years. Which means your blood type is older than your species. It's older than the entire genus Homo. It predates fire, stone tools, language, walking upright, all of it. At least 20 million years ago, some small ape reached for a piece of fruit in a forest, and it already carried the exact blood type you carry today. You inherited that single letter down an unbroken chain running back before anything you would recognize as human existed. Let that land for a second. A chimpanzee sitting in a zoo across town from you could, in principle, be a blood type match for you, while your own brother or sister might not be. The thing you share with that chimp is older than the thing that separates you from your own family. Scientists have a heavy name for this, a trans-species polymorphism, but the idea underneath it is wild. It means some differences are so old and so useful that evolution has flatly refused to let go of them across millions of years and dozens of separate species. Put it in scale. Your species, modern humans, is roughly 300,000 years old. Your blood type is at least 60 times older than that. The letter on your hospital bracelet has outlived entire species that have come and gone. Now here's where it gets interesting. If evolution has guarded these blood types for 20 million years, it must be guarding them for a reason. Because evolution is merciless about waste. A trait that does nothing gets watered down, drifts off, disappears, but something has been actively keeping A, B, AB, and O all in play this whole time, refusing to let any single one of them take over and win. And when you find a difference that evolution protects that stubbornly, there is almost always a war behind it, not a war between humans. A war between humans and the things trying to kill us from the inside. Disease. Start with the oldest killer our species has ever faced, malaria. Some researchers estimate it may have killed more human beings across all of history than any other single cause. It has shaped human blood more than almost anything else on the planet, and your blood type sits right in the middle of that fight. People with type O blood carry a real, measurable advantage against severe malaria. Here's how. The malaria parasite makes the blood cells it infects turn sticky, so they clump together and jam up the tiny vessels feeding your brain and organs. That clumping, called rosetting, is what turns a bad fever into a deadly one. And in type O blood, that rosetting happens far less easily. Type O simply doesn't let the parasite build its lethal traffic jams as well. So across the regions where malaria has tormented humans for thousands of years, much of sub-Saharan Africa type O is common, not by chance, because the people who carried it were a little more likely to survive the fever and live long enough to have children who carried it too. In those places, your blood type is a survivor's badge from a war against a parasite you may never have seen. But now comes the twist that makes this whole story honest. If type O is such a winner, why isn't every human on Earth type O? Because the same blood type that shields you from one disease can hang you out to dry against another. Take cholera, the gut infection that kills by draining the body of water at horrifying speed. People with type O blood suffer the worst cholera of anyone. They get sicker, faster, and die from it more often than people of other blood types. And look at where that shows up written into the map. In the Ganges Delta of Bangladesh, where cholera has been endemic for centuries. Type O is unusually rare compared with the rest of the world. The disease appears to have quietly culled type O, generation after generation, pushing its numbers down in exactly the place where carrying it is most dangerous. So sit with what that means. There is no best blood type. There never was. Type O is a shield against malaria and a liability against cholera. Every type is a different bet, strong against some threats, weak against others. That is precisely why evolution keeps all of them in circulation instead of crowning a winner. Because the enemy never stops changing, and no single blood type can win every fight. That's not a flaw in the system. That's the entire strategy, which is why your blood type is also a map you can read like a diary. Look at the Americas. Before Europeans arrived, the indigenous peoples of the continents were overwhelmingly type O in some populations, essentially 100% of people. That pattern most likely traces back to the tiny band of humans who first crossed from Asia into the Americas over the Beringia land bridge, carrying only a small slice of humanity's total blood type diversity with them. Whatever they had, their descendants inherited. Meanwhile, type B climbs to its highest frequencies across Central and East Asia. Type A is widespread across Europe. None of that is random. It's the shape of tens of thousands of years of migration, disease, and survival, frozen into the blood of the people living there now. Your blood type carries the fingerprint of wherever your ancestors came from and whatever they had to outlive to get there. You're not just a person with a blood type. You're the current endpoint of a line that reached back and grabbed one specific letter and refused to drop it. And ABO is only one layer of this. There's a second one, the part that tacks positive or negative onto your type. That's the RH factor, and it got its name in 1940 when Landsteiner, this time working with Alexander Wiener, found the very same marker in the blood of rhesus macaque monkeys. Yet another flag, shared with yet another primate, quietly riding along in your veins without your permission. Now, one honest caveat, because this story is easy to oversell. It is tempting to look at all this and decide that every blood type is a flawless adaptation to some specific ancient plague. It isn't that tidy. Some of the pattern really is selection. Malaria and cholera are genuine pressures that left genuine marks in human blood, but some of it is plain chance, small groups of people wandering into new lands, carrying whatever blood types they happen to be born with and passing them down for no deeper reason than luck. Selection and pure accident are both written into that single letter, and even now, we can't fully pull them apart. But go back to that form, the one where you scribbled down A, B, AB, or O without a flicker of thought. That letter was never a label some hospital invented for you. It's an inheritance at least 20 million years old, handed down from an ape you will never be able to picture, through a line of ancestors who each survived a fever, a plague, or a brutal crossing long enough to pass it forward one more time. You didn't choose it. You can't change it. And it's still doing its quiet job right now, this second, deciding which invisible enemies your blood is ready for. You are simply the newest person to carry a war that's been running in human veins since before our species even had a name. So the next time someone asks you your blood type, you'll know the real answer isn't just a letter. It might be the single oldest thing about you.